Welcome friends, LostScarf here, and it's time for the vlog, and this vlog is brought to you by the light at the end of the tunnel. Oh, like seriously. Bright, bright, hella bright. There's the opener. Okay, so, real quick, for those who have never seen this before and have not clicked out yet. Yes, I am a very ugly person. So, my hair is a mess, my face is a mess, neck, beard. That is very much a stigmatized thing. Look how bad this facial hair is. Now, I'm going to get this out of the way because people are like, but look how ugly he is. Which somehow would negate an argument. This is because just the quarantine. I just want to see how bad this can get. Because I'm not seeing anyone that's important to me. It's a bad way to put it. I'm not seeing any women right now that I want to impress with my good looks that I don't have. So I don't care. I'm just letting it grow out just to see what it is. Because no one needs this. There's no one around that I care about to see how this grows, to see what it becomes. And so it's not the best looking thing, I know that. Just don't care right now. Now, if next week, I somehow get a date, and for some reason I'm breaking quarantine, for reasons I don't understand why I would, but if I am, or maybe we get some very attractive girl is interning at our job, or whatever, I don't know, and I need to impress, then this will go away. That's it. My dick is the only reason why I'm going to shave this right now. That's about it. Probably shave that too. So, now let's talk about things. So this is the second take. First take, 40-minute rant. 40-minute rant. About just everything. 40-minute rant about the protests, about all that stuff. Not useful. Not useful at all. Some of that rant probably good, probably fun to listen to, probably cathartic, but not useful. This is going to be a little more useful, but it's still going to be some not so great stuff as well. There's two things I want to talk about. Obviously the protests. And the other thing I want to talk about is my niece and teaching her coding, which was a class. My niece just turned 9. She's in 3rd grade. And for some reason, one of her classes was coding. Yeah, let me get this. Let's talk about coding so I can cool down a little bit about the protest stuff, and then I'll talk about it again. Real quick on the protest stuff. Obviously, I'm on the BLM side of things. I don't want to say ACAB, but I am really pissed at the cops. We'll go more on that later. Let me talk about my niece so we have some fun before we get more ranty. So I had to teach my niece coding, and I don't know what language this is. I will say some of the code, and you will probably understand which one it is. So, the class is, they want her to make a little comic, and so she has coding to do it, and they give her examples, so they're like, okay, type this in to make the sprite. Like, the background's given, the graphics are given, and the sprites are given. All she has to do is drag and drop those into the work area, where you do the typing, the work area. All you can do is put it there, and it'll give you at least the code for that thing so it exists, so you don't have to type it yourself. I explained this took like 10 hours to teach her, by the way, so she could do it herself. I did it all myself, showing her how to do it, explaining it, because at first it was her trying to do it on her own, and me just like, no, that's not going to work, and just a lot of that, and that was like an hour of failure. I'm like, okay, alright, okay. I'm going to do the whole thing and show you how to do it. I'm going to make sure you understand it. That took like 2 or 3 more hours. Just make sure you understand all the things. I'm like, ask her, what would we put here? What would we type letter by letter, number by letter? What would we put? I did that for hours. And then it was just like 4 hours of her doing it herself with me just being like, nope, that's wrong. Do it again. No, that's wrong. No, that's not it. A lot of that. And I could tell I was just getting angrier. But I was trying my best to hold it as best I could. But my tone was getting higher, I could tell. So, the sprites are given. Some of the different coding is given for what they want to do. So they're like, okay, so we want you to have these sprites on this comic, and we want you to have 2 sprites. And then, so you drag, you get the sprites, pick your sprites, these are the sprites you have, okay. So you need to be able to change the position of the sprites, so there's coding for that. So because all the sprites are, of course, in the top left corner, because that's 0, 0 in this coding. So the top left corner is 0, 0. The other side, of course, is whatever number of X, maybe up to 1,000 or whatever. and then the bottoms maybe, so you go from up to down. So 0's up here, and then the more numbers you add to Y, the further down you go. So let's just say 00 is in the top left, and 1000 is in the bottom right. Let's just say that's what it is. For the X, Y, and all that stuff, for where you could go on this canvas. One of the things she was doing was she wasn't dragging the sprite to the work area, she's trying to drag the sprite to the comic. Because they give you a little thing of what the comic looks like. It's like, no, stop doing that, drag it here, this is the work area, that's the display area. That took like 20 minutes. Because she just kept dragging stuff to the display area. Sprites. So, sprites in the work area, and the code for that is var sprite1 I think dot graphic equals caption, quotation, whatever the thing is, quotation, caption, semicolon. That's what it is. It gives you that sprite. And it's named Sprite1. Like, it took a while to explain to her that Sprite1 is the name of this thing. And what's in the captions, in the quotation, is the thing. So, if the quotation is man, it's this guy. And then I deleted that and then wrote in if the location, and if now we're going to have something else as one of the sprites. One of the sprites was a prefix, the prefix UN for un. Like, I erased it and I put prefix, and it changed to that. So, like, see, that's what this area is for. Is that this, whatever this is named Sprite1. So this is this, and this is Sprite1. And it took a while to explain to her for her to understand that that's Sprite1. And anything we want to do to Sprite1 is the next line of coding we have to put in. And so you put in, if you want to do XY axis, you put in sprite1.x equals a number, semicolon. And then for, of course, Y axis, same thing. Sprite1.y equals a number, semicolon. Or is it colon? No, it's semicolon. Semicolon's that. 2 dots is colon, semicolon. Whichever one's the right one, understand that's the one I'm saying. So, that is just to move sprite 1. So then sprite 2, obviously, we put it in, and then we do sprite2.x, and then all those things to move that over to its space. So, it was just explained to her, like, if you want to be in the top left, X and Y are small numbers. If you want to be in the bottom right, what do they have to be? And it took her a while to realize big numbers. So if you want something where X is left or right, if you want on the left, what is it? Small numbers. Okay, and if you want on the right, what is it? Small numbers. No! Big numbers! Same thing for Y axis. That took a little bit for her to understand. And there's the coding, there's the coding there. She was trying to do copy pasting, which wasn't going to work. Because the copy pasting would have worked if the instructions were better. Because they had like names for things in their examples, what they wanted you to type. And they're in there, but they don't explain that you could use those things to make that happen. So if she wanted to, and if she was a little bit smarter about it, she could have copy pasted and the entire thing could have been done through copy paste. But because she didn't understand what she was copy pasting, she wasn't copy pasting correctly, and it was just a stupid mess. So now the sprites are in their positions. There's a sprite in the bottom left, there's a sprite in the bottom right. The next instruction was, we need speech bubbles now. The instructions are just like, we need speech bubbles. And then they're like, so when you get the speech bubble and to move its position, you're going to want to do my speech bubble 3 dot X and position, and dot Y position. The thing is, when you drag a speech bubble over, the speech bubble is called my graphic, not not speech bubble. At least that is what it is for all of them, except 2 specific speech bubbles. If you drag 2 specific speech bubbles, for some reason they're named Speech Bubble 3 and Speech Bubble 4 instead of my graphic. So this required me explaining that these are the names. So forget Speech Bubble 3, Speech Bubble 4. Just remember that when it's Speech Bubble 3, what they mean is it's the name of the thing. And the name of your thing is my graphic. Because we did not use the 2 speech bubbles they want us to use, despite the fact they didn't tell us which speech bubbles they want us to use. I found that through experimentation. So now we got speech bubbles, and then I had to explain to her again through XY axis and through these different names where you want to go to move these bubbles to. A lot of trial and error for her to move those bubbles correctly to where she wanted them to be. And also they were too big. So of course it explains how scaling works. And it took a while to explain scaling because it's like, okay, 1 means it's just regular size, 0.5 means it gets smaller, and you get a bigger number, it gets bigger. And it took a while for her to understand that. It took a while for her to understand that 0.5 means smaller. But she got it eventually, and now the bubbles are smaller. Next thing was text. So instead of typing in what text is yourself, they had drag in text, and it would allow you to know how to use text. So you drag in text, like the command for how to do text. Like if you drag this in, it will give you the command for text. That's the writing for text. And it gave us that. It's like my text to, I think it was just my text to equals, and then captions, and quotation marks, and then the word, and then semicolon. And it says hello, because hello is always what it's going to be. Hello world. So they wanted you to do 2 texts. You can have 1 for each character. So she did that. She does those things. They're in the top left corner. They're overlapping. She's confused. Trying to explain that to her took a while. The best way to explain it to her was me moving them out of each other's way so she could understand that these are 2 separate things, and whatever we write in the captions are the words. And so eventually that worked out. Eventually she understood that. And so we put in the typing that she wanted to put, the wording she wanted to have between 2 characters. We did that. Taught her the scaling again. The problem was these things were freaking clear. White canvas, the letters were white. So, but they were like a degree off white, so you could barely see them. It's like, alright, now I need to look up how colors work. So something that's not even supposed to be in this thing, because none of it will tell you how to do the colors of your lettering. I had to look into it and figure out how to do coloring, and it's just mytext1.color equals, and quotations, whatever color you want. By the way, it's not black or red or green. No, it is I'm going to say hex, not hex, but it's like hashtag numbers and letters. I think it might be hex, to get the exact color you want. Jinx can correct me as to what that actually is, because she probably knows what that is. So that was fun. So it was like, if my niece wanted a specific red, had to look up what is the code for, what is the exact hashtag number letters for that. There it is, and now we got the color she wants. Another step they added, though, is they also put in, if you click on the comic, something changes. So they're trying to teach her that. She didn't understand it. And after an hour, I gave up. I'm like, we're just going to put it in. I can't explain it to you. I don't know how I can explain it to you. I show you it, but I don't know how you're supposed to understand it. Because the idea is, the way the comic is, one character has the bubble over their head and they're speaking. You click on it, and that disappears, and the other one appears. That's basically what this if clicked on command does. What they want you to do is, you make the opacity, which was a word she didn't understand, and a concept it's hard to explain to a child, what opacity means. Tried to explain it, she still didn't get it. Use the definition, still didn't get it's like, it's the thing makes it invisible, okay? They want you to set the opacity of the speech bubble and the text for the second person to 0. Because that means it's not there. Like, I get the concept. She doesn't get the concept. I don't know how I'm supposed to explain it to her. Why are they trying to teach her this? She's not going to freaking get it at 9 years old. In 3rd grade. But working through it. Working through this. It is a struggle. So set the opacity of the second person's talking to 0. And this is the thing that she needed to understand. That 0 doesn't just mean nothing's there. It also means no or off. She needs to understand that 1 means yes or on. Not just an increment. So I had to make her understand that 1 can be used for scaling, 1 can be used for positioning, and 1 can be used for on and off, for yes or no. I had to explain these 3 concepts to her. She wasn't going to figure that out on her own. Because she tried and she didn't work out. Because when we did opacity, she won like opacity 2, opacity 10, opacity 30. None of that meant anything. It was just on off. It was just 0 or 1. That's all that mattered. That took a while to explain, and it probably didn't work out. Probably didn't work out at all. So you change the opacity outside of when clicked, and then inside when you click on it, you switch. You change the opacity of text 1 and bubble 1 or graphic 1 to 0 because that's going to disappear. And then you have the opacity of text 2 and bubble 2 go opacity 1 so you can see it again. For some reason, one of her sprites was John Locke. I just found that ridiculous. So that was my whole day yesterday. After that, we played Monopoly, Frozen Monopoly, because of course it's Frozen Monopoly. And we played Mini Cornhole. So Cornhole is that game with the board, with the beanbags, and you throw them in and try to get in the hole. But the mini, it's just a little version of it with a little catapult with tiny beanbags. But they're like ball bearings. So we played that. And she cheats she tries to cheat everything. She kept moving the board, making it harder for me to land shots. She just kept doing just really silly things to try to cheat. She tried to keep saying every time I got in the hole that it actually bounced outside. I'm like, what? She's a little cheater. She doesn't want to lose. But I kept beating her. Basically, it was just a handicap match for me. Kept beating her. She kept cheating. She kept losing. And like, look, you can't win this way. Just get good. Look, child. Look, child. Just get good. Talking about my niece made me realize something about the protests. And I'll get to it eventually, I'm sure. Real quick though, she just cheats like a bastard. I don't understand why she keeps cheating. She just can't win. She just can't win. Just get good. Get good. That's all I got. Even if we gave me like a half point like handicap, I still won. I don't know. Just don't cheat. I don't know why she likes to cheat so much. I don't get it. Apparently she's ahead of the game on me when people think that cheating is the way to win. But Tom Brady did it. What do you want? Okay, so let's talk about the... I think I lost everyone when I said Tom Brady did. I think I lost the entire crowd when I said that. Let's talk about the protest. Let's talk about that. So, as of right now, last night, or yesterday, was the white man who fell backwards, cracked his skull. Now, I don't think that's the right way to word it. If you haven't seen it, I'll just describe it, I won't be gory about it. What happened was, there was an old white gentleman, 75 years old. He had a helmet. It was one of the police's helmets, one of their riot helmets. And he goes up to them to return the helmet. They don't care about whatever the hell he's saying. No idea what he's saying. The first guy he looks like he's like, what the hell, back up. While another guy just shoves him. Second guy shoves him. And the old man falls back. He's trying to get his balance and he falls and hits his head on the ground. Blood is coming out of his head. You can see it pooling. The police just keep walking forward. The first guy, the one who's doing like this, he sees him and he tries to go down to check on the old man. A cop behind him grabs him by the arms like, no, get back up. Get in line. We gotta do this thing, kind of thing. The other guy, the one who did the shoving, sees him and he turns in a way that's like, oh crap, I messed up, kind of thing. There's another angle of that. There's another angle of it where you actually get to see the old man fall, and it's not a fun thing. And don't watch it with sound on. If you watch it, don't have sound on. In it, you get a different angle. It's from the other side of the street. The old man falls. You see it happen, and you hear a loud sound when he hits the ground. And everyone thought it was his head. The truth is, it was the helmet hitting the ground. Meat doesn't make as loud a sound as plastic does. Definitely. So, but people thought, oh god, that's his head. That was the helmet. When that happens, the exact moment that man hits the ground, everyone reacts and they stop. The police stop and look. And there's like 20, 30, 40 cops there. Protesters stop. They get up. Some are wanting to run to the old man, and they get stopped. They can't get there. Because what is the human reaction to this moment? The human reaction is to check on that old man. And one of those cops, he wanted to check on him, and he got stopped by another cop. Even if there's humanity within these police, they can't display it because there's the other police to keep them from doing it. And that is an awful thing. An incredibly awful thing. So that moment was the moment for a lot of people. And I won't just say white people, but it was the moment for a lot of people white people specifically, because this was a 75-year-old man. Tall white man, kind of frail looking. He's bleeding on the ground, and you can see it. That is a lot of people's fathers. That right there is the dad of so many white people. And people with mixed race, of course, but that is the dad. I know plenty of tall, old white dudes. I know plenty. And yeah, I could implant any of them into that spot in my mind. And that would bug the shit out of me. And it did, because like, oh, seeing that was an awful thing to see. An absolutely awful thing to see. And that's a thing that never should have happened. It's this frail old white guy. You just have him go back. You didn't need to shove him at all. He's not a threat in any way. And that's a big frustration, is these cops across the nation are failing de-escalation. It's extremely frustrating. Now, the reason why the last version of this vlog went 40 minutes is because as I was going, I was just thinking of one instance after another of the police failing. And I was just getting angrier and angrier and angrier and angrier, because of course I'm going to, because that's all I'm seeing. There are moments of cop kindness, but it's completely drowned out by all the brutality I've also seen. There is a thread just documenting every single instance they can find of the police harming peaceful protesters. It was like, this one was 288, I think. This one was instance 288. For a ton of people, the video George Floyd dying is what got them to protest. This video is going to get more people to protest, because that hit it home for even more people. There'll be more donations, there will be more protesting, and just more reaction. That's what that did. And heaven forbid what the next video will be. That will spur this on even further. I've talked to some friends, they're like, they give it another week, and yeah, I could see that. I could definitely see that. It really depends on how this all escalates, or de-escalates. It really depends on that. You can give anything another week, depending on what's going on and how the reactions can be. In theory, we could have given the quarantine 3 weeks, and we would have been fine if we were actually very draconian about it. If everyone stayed put, nobody dicked around, 3 weeks, it could be gone. I'd argue 5 weeks, honestly. Real draconian, real everyone stays home, nobody interacts. I'd give 5 weeks at worst. Because there's just that one person who it takes longer to get through it, and it takes longer to not be a carrier anymore. After that, it's all gone. But we can't do that. We're not people who can do that kind of thing. So that's in the strictest sense. Let's say if the military locks down everything, then yeah, we won't see protests at that point. And the second the military cools off, protests will come right back. So, I'm in a sea of red. I'm in San Diego, but I'm in a sea of red because my entire family tree is on the right. I like to think of myself central left, because the extreme left is scary as all fuck. And there are things on the right that I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah, this I'll agree with, that I'll agree with, because no party is perfect, and both have things that are useful. That's why you want to believe in bipartisanship, right? But I'm in a sea of red. Every Thanksgiving, every New Year's, just every day at home, I just hear the same things, the same talking points, the same giving it up for Trump, just believing in Trump and all that shit. And just hating protesters, hating the left, hating all these different things. And it just gets annoying, gets frustrating, but all I can do is nod. All I can do is nod. I'm at work, same thing. There are 2 black people at work. Doesn't mean they're on the left, though. My job is, I will say, 90% on the right, 10% on the left. My boss is very much on the right. Both of them. I have 2 bosses. I have a supervisor and the supervisor over him. Talk to them every day. When they talk about politics, all I can do is just nod, like, yeah, okay. An argument someone I follow is, you should be fighting ignorance and racism every day. You should speak up against it. But you gotta pick your shots. You honestly do. I am in the nest. I am in the home of it. I am in there. That shot is never gonna do anything there. So there's no shot to take. And what good is losing my job to argue over this stuff? It's not worth it. There's no good there. I am a public servant. And I do a good job. And I have no interest in losing my job to not do that anymore. Just because I really don't like the ignorance of my boss and my other boss and some of my coworkers. I'm not going to change them. And I'm not going to be able to browbeat them or anything on my own. You need the right tools, you need the right shot, you need the right opportunity, all that stuff. And I'm in no position for any of that. Crazy thing, though, my dad's like, yeah, Trump needs to go, which is so weird. Yesterday, that's what my dad decided. He's like, Trump needs to go. He's completely failed in this. He's completely failed in handling the protests. And that's the truth of it. Yeah, Trump has been very much, you got to dominate. It's not peace. He wants to separate. That's not going to work. And it's finally convinced my father. That is a trip to me. Because my dad has been all about Trump, even in the quarantine. And now, he's like, no, Trump's got to go. Like, Jesus Christ, how the hell did... How? It happened. Trip. Crazy. I'm trying to be more muted in this version because, oh God, was I just ranting in the other version. So I want to get my points across. And this is just the whole thing about even what this whole protest is about. If you're a ranting, raving, mad person, doesn't matter what your points are. People don't give a shit. They won't listen. Emotion does help, but only the people who are already open to your ideas. And impassioned speech, just even take MLK's speech. People on the fence moved by him. People with him moved by him. People against him don't give a fuck what MLK said. They don't care. And that can be the same case here. But it's also in how I deliver it. Because the rant could move people in the middle, or it could move people away if I'm just too angry sounding. That's the thing about it. So I've been very muted right now. Also because I'm just trying not to think about all the many instances of police brutality that definitely are frustrating and infuriating. I was going to say something about children, everything. Oh yeah, another thing about humanity. The reason why, and this is the thing, people are like, well, what are you going to do when you need to call the cops? I'm still going to call the cops. It's not about that. It's not about destroying the police. It's about reforming the police. It's about making them a better thing. Also making them better at de-escalation. Better at not being cowards. About that. Like, I gotta get back to my wife and kids. I gotta get back to my family. Well, they're not gonna get back to their family because you fucking killed them. George Floyd. There's a tragedy there. Of course. Now, here's the story. Now, if that story's a lie, well then, fuck. There are 4 cops in this situation. 3 cops are on him. 3 cops are on George Floyd. It wasn't just the 1 cop, because we got another angle of it. And with the one angle that everyone's seen, it's just that piece of shit on his neck. 1 guy on him. You don't exactly see where the other ones are. You know there's 4 cops there. There's 1 cop kind of standing near him, and the other 2, they're over here. When you have 3 cops on 1 man, why the neck? Why are you kneeling on his neck? Well, you've got 3 cops very well restraining this man already. Why are you on his neck, and why are you on his neck for 9 whole goddamn minutes? The story goes, and you can hear it, the 1 cop standing, it's his 3rd shift. It's his 3rd shift in this whole thing. The guy on his neck, like he's been there for like 20 years. The other guys have been there for a long time too. And the one dude's like, hey, can we, maybe, not be on his neck? Maybe follow protocol and just have him on his side? Like, we've already got the guy and everything. And the piece of shit's like, no, I got him. I already got him. I got him. Yeah, that's why I'm on his neck. I'm on his neck. We got him. We got it. It's good. A little bit later, he tries again. He's like, can we just, not be on his neck and just, we got him. Turn him over. Like, we're good here. We don't need to be on him like that. He's like, no, I got it. We got him. It's good. We got him. And then he stopped after that. If you were in those shoes, do you think you would have did it differently? Do you think you would have gotten him off of him? Do you think you would have been able to save George Floyd's life? Many are going to say yes. I'm going to say no. I would have failed because of what the system of what the police are. In the police, if you're a whistleblower, if you speak up, you're the black sheep. And when you're the black sheep, people don't respond to you. They don't respond to you on the radio. They don't help you in a bad situation. We've seen it. It's documented. It happens. Please talk about it casually. That is their culture. If you're not one with the boys in blue, with your brothers in blue, then they'll let you get killed. They're not going to help you. That is the culture this new guy was in. He tried twice. He didn't try to push the dude off of him. He didn't do anything else. He's like, come on. Like, he did a weak attempt, but he tried twice. I would have done that too. I would have made weak attempts. I'd be like, come on. Just can you get the fuck off him? Like, we already got the guy. Like, something. But I wouldn't try too hard, because if I try too hard, as the new guy, I know I'm going to die someday because these pieces of shit aren't going to help me. Because that is the culture. And you saw that culture of killing humanity within these police when that old man fell. Because dude was going for him and another one pulled him back up. He's like, nope. You're not showing humanity here. You're not going to help this old man. That is what it is. And that is not okay. There are police officers who have done very bad things. There are police officers who've done like 79 very bad things, and they still have their job. Got cop in Florida in 3.5 years. What the fuck? That's just one. The trip is, and I argued this last week, we're in safer times in general. Times are safer. And since they're safer, why do we have so many cops? Why do we have them basically militarized? Why do they have such a high budget? The argument is, well, it's working. That's the reason for it. Okay. We're just peaceful and more peaceful in general. It feels like it's worse because of the cameras. And this is the thing about it. And it shows hypocrisy and everything with that. Rodney King. How did we know about Rodney King? Because some random dude with a camera this freaking big on his shoulder, because that's the only way those cameras worked back in the day, is you're going to hold this big ass thing in front of you. Like, just like this the whole time. Got that camera. This is how big cameras were back in the day. He was dicking around doing something else. Looking at something else. Don't even know what it is. Because I don't care what that guy was actually doing. And then he sees this. 4 cops beat the shit out of a black man. Bunch of outrage about that, and we had our riots about that. And we keep getting these instances. We keep seeing footage. And it just keeps happening. Mike Brown, Eric Gardner, Philando Castillo, just to name a few. Those are the big ones, right? Now we have George Floyd. And of course, there's Ahmaud Arbery the week before. Did I mention the reason why we got to see the Ahmaud Arbery one, get to see it, is because the lawyers of those guys thought it would exonerate them because it shows that he was fighting back? Because of course he was fighting back, because you have fight or flight. He tried to flight, he tried to run away, they trapped him, all he has left is fight. They executed that man. We see this because there was camera footage. We saw George Floyd's death because everyone's got cameras now. We got to see it. And because we see these instances, we get to actually see this shit happen. We feel more afraid. We feel more under attack. We feel more like we can't trust the police. But the thing about it is, we see dishonesty in the police, and we see disingenuousness, and we see that stuff, we're like, well, what the fuck have we not seen either? Because when that old man fell, the report was The old man tripped and fell on his own. What state was it? I'm not going to look it up right now. They said a shop got $2.4 million worth of Rolexes stolen. Rolex came out and said there was jack shit in there. Wouldn't have anything in that store. How are you supposed to trust the cops? How are you supposed to trust them if they're not proving they're worth trusting? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? You got to own up to your failings. You got to own up to your mistakes. You have to own up to them. And this is the thing, going back to, it's just childish. There's a big problem with Americans. I can only say Americans because I don't know how the rest of the countries work, how the other countries work. But we don't like admitting our failures. We don't admit accepting we fucked up. We always have to win. We always have to win no matter what. That's just how it is. Got to keep winning, got to keep striving, got to keep going, got to get stronger. Got to just keep being on the just up and up. Look at our president. He just kept downplaying the virus. Everything he talks about, he just tries to argue that, like, this is anything against him is shit, anything that's with him is great, and he just keeps winning and doing well. He just freaking said jobs are not doing as bad as they were, so George Floyd would be happy about that. Why would you even put his name in that sentence? We keep seeing them lie. We keep getting more and more instances of that. And of course, that's not always going to be just them. You, of course, will have people who are of the darkness of they are trying to riot or loot, and then they get caught and they say they weren't doing that. That's always going to happen in any direction. But the thing is, we're supposed to hold the police to a higher standard. Why aren't they being up to that standard? Because they're human, then don't get the fucking job. Or get better training. We are seeing every day a failure to de-escalate the situation over and over and over again. And the beating of peaceful protesters is such cowardice that makes no damn sense to me. And this is something I said in the last one, I want to say it here because it's the best take I have, and that is everyone can get whatever they want out of the protest. Because that's just what we've become with the news and with footage and things like that, because people can fuck with footage all they want. They can see what they want to see. My boss sees the police being strong and showing they shouldn't be messed with. And he sees the looters, he sees thugs, he sees animals, that's what he sees. And because of the looters and the rioters, and because the protesters aren't doing enough to stop them, the protest ain't shit. That's what my boss sees. What do I see? I see the police brutalizing people. I see them actively harming people who are just trying to protest, just doing the First Amendment. And I see them being cowards, because I don't see them when the looting happens. I don't see them when the riots are happening. I see them beating the shit out of people for being past curfew. I see that. I see them trapping protesters, not letting them go home before the curfew ends, before the curfew starts, so they can beat their ass for being out after curfew. I see them beating workers who are just trying to get home because their job let them out after curfew. Because I don't know about you, but I don't know any grocery stores that stop working when these curfews are set. LA had a curfew at 1 p.m. Who gets off work before 1 p.m.? Certain shifts, of course, but who the hell normally gets off before 1 p.m.? I don't need grocery stores that do that shit. You usually get off maybe 2, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. Pharmacies, nurses, doctors. Who gets off work before 1 p.m.? 6 p.m., sure, fine. People getting off work around that time. They get stuck in traffic, now they're out past curfew. Great, now they're going to get their ass beat. We see instances, there's that, oh god, that couple. Cops converged on them when they're trying to get home. They slashed their tires, they tased both of them. It's disgusting. I keep seeing more and more brutality. I've also seen looters being total pieces of shit. Rioters being total pieces of shit. I've watched so much shit. I've made my donations, and a thought experiment is, should I be saying the donations I've made or not? Because it's like, well, I'm not trying to make it about me. But if you don't mention the donations, that people know, like, oh, they're donating, I should donate too. That's the thing back and forth. By the way, Nintendo is doing an interesting thing with that. Their employees are they're like, hey, if you donate, we'll double that. That's what Nintendo's doing. And Nintendo is like, but we're not going to talk about it out in the open, like all these other companies are. Nintendo, it's an Asian thing. It's very much an Asian thing where they're like, well, you want to do it? We'll do it too with you. We'll do the donations with you. But we don't want this to be PR because it's not about us. Not about us at all. We don't need that kind of PR anyway. We're great. Everyone loves Nintendo. Because it shouldn't be about PR. It should just be about doing the right thing. By the way, Lego indefinitely taking out cops. Holy shit, yeah, I'm buying Legos. I'm buying Legos for my kids. They're going to get the big ones, obviously, so they can't eat them. And then when they're old enough not to be dipshits, then they'll get the smaller ones. Black Lives Matters for me is about police reform and about police brutality. It's about the police have been very unfair to not just blacks, but other minorities as well. They're very weird about minorities, not so much the white people. And then there's the argument that like 400 white people get shot by cops, while only 200 something black people get shot by cops. 70% of the population is white. 13% of the population, or 70% of the population, is black. Scale blacks up, they're still dying a hell of a lot more than white people are now, aren't they? That's a whole population thing. This is something that people just need to understand in general when it comes to statistics, is statistics can be used to bullshit anything. If you take a statistics class, you don't learn statistics more than you learn how to look at the bullshit, at least in my school. UCSD, 10 weeks of education. 8 weeks dedicated to figuring out what's real, what's not when looking at statistics. Two weeks of math. Because that's what statistics are. Statistics is the ability to bullshit. You can bullshit anything if you do the numbers right. And so it's like, it's better to figure out when you have real good numbers. Like the mathematics on what are good numbers, and being able to recognize what are good numbers, and what is good causation and all that crap. The onus keeps being put on the protesters. It's being put on them to keep the rioters and looters in line. And we see that. We see instances of protesters protecting Targets and other stores, and when they see someone break windows, they stop them. When they try to do some mayhem, they stop them. We see that. Here's my thing. It shouldn't just be on the protesters. Who protects and who serves? The police. Why aren't the police marching with protesters? We see instances of that, and that's good. The police should be marching with protesters and should be recognizing and stopping looting and rioting every chance they get. Instead, they make a wall, and then they make a cage, and then they beat the shit out of protesters. There's a lot of ways this could end. I didn't even talk about the COVID stuff. So, we had a spike of COVID on Monday in general. That's not from the protests. People blame the protests. That's not it. The protests? That's in another week or two. Another week or two, that's when COVID's going to hit. And because of the tear gas, some people are going to die because of this. I put that on the cops. They should be tear gassing the rioters and looters, I suppose. Not the peaceful protesters. And COVID's going to hit the police as well. I don't know how this is going to end. I can tell you what I want it to be, though. I want it to be reform, because of course I do. Police can't have so many, like, oh, you mess up this many times, you still get to be a cop. Like, there needs to be a number. Just give it a solid number. They mess up this many times, they're out. The man who killed George Floyd had a list of bad things he'd done before. That list should not be that long. You make him take another occupation, a different job. He doesn't get to be a cop anymore. People's lives are in his hands, and he crushed them. That is not who you want to protect you. That is not who you want at all. I haven't had a single good instance with the police. And usually that's going to be the case, because the police are there because you did something wrong. Sometimes they're there because something was done wrong to you, and you're like, they're a relief. That's never happened for me. People are like, what are you going to do when you call the police? I'm still going to call the police. That's what they're there for. Hopefully, there's a better reform. I think I already said this before, but I know I said in the first one. I'm trying to make sure I say it again. But maybe I already said it. Would like there to be reform where they're just, better chance I'm getting a good cop. Ideally to me, just end this out. Ideally to me, this protest should have been the police and protesters working together. They're marching, it's kept orderly. The police tell them where they can go, they let them go there. They tell them where they can't go, just block those parts off, that's fine. There's a curfew. The police help the people go home. They don't entrap them, they don't beat them. The reform I want to see them less militarized. I want to see a bunch of that money go to education. Because obviously education is getting fucked. We all know it, we all see it, and it's just happening. I want to see that police budget down. They don't need to buy all these military toys. That right there is the vlog. I went very long. Extremely long. Too long. But it is what it is. God, you saw the first version. I was just screaming. Oof. Like an angry gorilla. I don't know. Alright, so that right there is the vlog. I had fun talking. Hope you had fun watching and listening. You at least enjoyed the first half with my niece, for sure. Thanks for coming by, and see you next time.